This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 3, Episode 226 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1...
Welcome to Jumblethink, where we interview amazing entrepreneurs about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. On today's show, we are talking about the power of community. More about that in a minute. Whether you're a first-time listener or a long-time listener, there are tons of episodes to check out and catch up on. The easiest way to do that is to check out the podcast on iTunes or Spotify. If you like listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, simply go to jumblethink.com/iTunes. And for Spotify, it's jumblethink.com/Spotify. Again, that's jumblethink.com/iTunes and jumblethink.com/Spotify. Now let's jump into today's conversation. Hey there, welcome to Jumblethink. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have a great episode for you today. It's one of our topical episodes where we give you some practical tips about chasing those dreams and ideas and ultimately making them a reality. Today's topic is all about the power of community. Before we jump into that, we want to thank our sponsor for today's episode, OpportunityInChina.com. Here is a little bit more about them.
At the dawn of the 19th century, forward-thinking people moved to the commercial centers of Europe. Moving into the 20th century, America welcomed millions into the land of freedom and opportunity. It is now the 21st century. Many of the successes and fortunes of our generations will be made in China. To learn how you can seize opportunity in China, follow the Opportunity in China podcast. The Opportunity in China podcast is available anywhere podcasts are streamed, or you can visit our website at opportunityinchina.com.
Today's episode is going to be a lot of fun. If you are a new listener, you may be wondering, what's Jumblethink all about? Well, we do 2 episodes a week. Our Tuesday episodes are with incredible guests. We just recently had an Olympic marathon runner. We've also had TV hosts and authors, incredible entrepreneurs and startup founders. So on those Tuesday episodes, we always interview amazing people. And then on Friday, we change it up. Usually we do what we call Topical Friday. Those are topics all about the journey of chasing dreams and ideas, how you can make that a reality. We give you some practical tools and tips to walk you through the process of moving past the idea and into reality. I know for me and for many of the people I talk to, chasing those dreams and ideas is filled with the unknown. It is a journey that is often difficult because we just don't know what steps to take or how to fund the idea or get past the fear we have. And so these Friday episodes, we love to talk topics. Last time we did a topical Friday episode, we talked about the art of innovation and invention. It's a great episode. We talk about Apple and some things we can learn about the changes at Apple, both good and bad. Before that, we were doing a series, and it was entitled The Power Of. We talked about topics like the power of adventure, the power of identity, the power of wonder, and the power of boredom. We are returning to that series to go a little bit deeper, and today's topic is the power of community. Community is something I think about often for many reasons. One of those reasons is that I worked at a church in Northern California that was incredibly entrenched both in the community around it, in South Oroville, working with some of the most at-risk people, children, youth, and adults, many of them struggling with addiction and other issues, whether if it's a child or youth that doesn't have a parent, or finding food or money. This was a devastated community. And so from that standpoint of church and how it impacts the people around it, I often think about community. I also think about community as the community of church and how it's responsible for the people in the church, but also in the case of like the Father's House in Oroville where I worked, how it interfaces and impacts the community around it. Beyond that, for several years, I've worked in the tech space. I've owned a web development agency, and we've built websites and applications for corporations, companies, and individuals. helping them communicate their message, their products, or their services to their audience. These websites were a hub for them to clearly share their message, to share how their products or how their services or how that message impacts the people that interface with that business, with that organization. Going beyond that, because of working in the tech space and because of working with digital agencies, being in the web space, going even deeper, I've had conversations with our clients often about how social media engages us and how we engage with social media, both as individuals and as corporations. So for me, the concept of community is multifaceted. It is a deep conversation that is massively significant to me. I can even think back 10 years ago when I was sharing at a business networking group. I was the speaker for their group. And I talked about the importance of community and how our interactions intertwine to build our businesses, how they build our lives. It is something that I think is significant in this journey of chasing ideas and dreams. If we don't understand community, if we don't understand how we interface community, if we don't understand how community impacts what we're growing, then we can't really build a community. We can't really build a business. We can't really grow an idea or dream to reach the fullness of what it should be. And so for me, community is embedded deeply in the power of ideas, the power of dreams. And that's why in this series, the power of community is significant to the conversation. Now, typically, I would lay out a definition using the standard definition for the word. Now, in the case of community, it is a broad term that can be defined so many different ways. A community could be a social club or group. It could be a school community. It could be a neighborhood or city or state that you live in. It could be a country. It could be a group of common interest people, maybe around a specific topic. Community is a very broad word that can be defined differently by many people. So instead of me reading you a bunch of definitions and giving you the literal definition defined by Webster's or your favorite dictionary, I'm going to lay our foundation today, not on the definition, but the characteristics of community. There are specific traits of community that are universal that will help us build that groundwork for the rest of the conversation. So let's dive into the traits, the characteristics of community. I've broken these into 7 characteristics and traits. Some communities will have all 7. Some will only have a few of these characteristics, but these are the common characteristics of community that I've found over the last several years of researching this. The first characteristic and trait of community is the commonality of interest and topic. People are coming together for these communities to have a shared interest or topic. I break this into 3 subsets. The social bond. Now, this specific community trait is around gathering for social purpose. Think of these as your fraternities or sororities or your social clubs. Think about these as simply gathering for sharing of relationship. The second subset of interest and topic is topic. You're coming together from an intellectual standpoint of conversation around a specific topic. Their commonality of interest and topic is about learning and exploring ideas and thoughts. The third subset is activity. Think of your running groups, your cycling groups, your crafting groups, your whatever it is that people like to do. And so this is your doing group within the interest in topic section. So you have social, which is about relationship, topical, which is about ideas, and activities, which are about doing. And the common trait is that you're bringing people together to explore activity, to explore topics, to explore a common interest, and to do it in a group setting. The second trait or characteristic of community is often shared values. On the surface, you would think that these would be maybe political values or religious values, but it can be even deeper. For those groups that are activity-driven, the shared value might be physical fitness or running or getting out in nature. Whatever it is, they have a shared value. We see this kind of characteristic of community highlighted specifically in our religious communities. You see subsets of this even in specific pockets. So if you come from a Christian-based faith, there are subsets of communities within that faith. Maybe it is a Wesleyan Arminianism or Catholic viewpoint of the world. And so there's a shared value in that. And even within that, as we're seeing in the Presbyterian belief, there are subsets of values and beliefs within that. And so this community, those communities can be grouped together by the shared values that they believe in. So that's trait and characteristic number 2. Trait and characteristic number 3 is location. This is a common hub and gathering place of community. So community can often be these social groups. They can also be shared value groups, but they can also be driven by location. If you live in a specific country, you are a part of that community. If you live in a specific town, you are part of that community. Now, you have a choice at which level you want to engage in that community, but nonetheless, by location, you are a member of that community. And so you can have both physical and non-physical location-based characteristics of community. Physical is very easy to find. Where do you live? What's close to you? Where can you engage? But in our modern age of community, we also have to take into account that there are social gathering places of online networks. We all often call these social networks, our Facebooks, our Instagrams, our Twitters, our LinkedIns. These all become a common hub, a location of gathering that define community. If you are on Facebook and you are actively engaged, you are a part of the Facebook community. If you are networking and using LinkedIn as part of your community, you're a part of that community. So no matter what the location is, whether it's physical or non-physical, location and proximity to that location is a significant player in characteristics and traits of community. We can look at this at a large scale. There are specific beliefs and practices that are unique to specific communities. If I'm in Austin, Texas, let's say, one of the parts of their community, the common gathering and hub, is the barbecue or taco joints. Now, if I'm in maybe the West Coast, there may be common interests in gathering places around surfing or around skiing, for that matter. There are all these common gathering places that build those location-based community traits. Number 4 is a shared culture. You can look at interests, you can look at values, you can look at location, but in the end, there is also a shared culture. You can tell that someone is from a specific place because of the way they think, the way that they process, the things that they value. And these things come back to a shared culture. You can get very macro or micro in your interpretation of this. If I am a part of a running community, which I am, there is a shared culture around that. There is a shared system around what that community looks like because of a shared culture. If I'm a part of an environmental community, there is a shared culture around the community of the environment. So number 4, there is a shared culture. Number 5, there is a common goal, reason, or thought. There's a similarity of that. If you're a part of a running group, those running groups can be subset into a different, smaller community. I can think back to my running group, and in our running group, we had smaller micro groups that were based around pace goals. How fast did you want to run a specific race or get to a specific benchmark in your fitness? You can think of environmental groups, going back to that. They have a common goal. Maybe it's to save the ocean or save a whale or save a river or save a forest. They also have a common thought process. And they want to work in that common goal and reason and that common thought and that similarity to bring change to whatever it is that they are gathering for. And so that is characteristic and trait number 5. Number 6 is ownership. If you are a member of a specific location-based community, I live in Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania. There is ownership in that community because I pay taxes here, because I gather there, and because maybe I own a house here. Well, whatever it is, you have that ownership of community. This can be translated past location and into social communities, activity-based communities, or topical communities. There has to be a buy-in which you feel like you have ownership in the community in which you're gathering. So characteristic and trait number 6, ownership. Characteristic, and our final characteristic and trait of community is number 7, a long-term commitment. Now, sometimes this long-term commitment is chosen. You say, hey, I'm going to move to this community, be a part of this city. I'm going to live here, and I'm going to be engaged. Or if you have an interest, you say, I'm going to find a community that feeds this interest, and you proactively become a part of it. And sometimes it happens by accident. You say, hey, so-and-so's gathering, and I'm friends with them. I'm going to go hang out with them. Or, hey, I'm interested in this topic. I'm going to go check it out. And so you gather and say, I'm just going to check it out. And over the course of time, you become part of that community. To be part of a community, you have to be engaged in that community. By long-term commitment, I'm not saying that you're committed for 100 years. I'm just saying that you are committed to be a part of this for a season. Could be 2 years, could be 5 years, could be 100 years. But no matter what it is, that you're making a commitment of time to be part of this community. So to recap, here are the 7 traits and characteristics I've identified. Number 1, interest in topic with subsets of social bond, topic, or activity. Number 2, shared values. Number 3, location. Number 4, shared culture. Number 5, a common goal, reason, or thought, a similarity. Number 6, ownership. And number 7, a long-term commitment to the community in which you are a part of. I know you're listening right now and you're going, this is awesome. I like the conversation of community, but I don't understand what this has to do with ideas and dreams. Or for that matter, how this affects my ideas and dreams and how this makes a difference for me and what I'm growing, what I'm building. Well, in our next segment, we're going to talk about why community matters in your pursuit of chasing big ideas and dreams. We'll be right back. On today's show, we are talking all about the power of community, and we would love for you to become part of our community. It's super easy to do. You can head on over to jumblethink.com. You'll find links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. You can also sign up for our newsletter. Our heart, our passion at Jumblethink is to help you make your dreams and ideas a reality. And one of the best ways to do that is by being in community. So join our communities. Join a community that's all about chasing those big ideas and dreams and changing the world around you. So head on over, check that out, jumblethink.com. Now let's jump back into today's conversation all about the power of community. We are back to go deeper into this conversation about the power of community. In our first segment, as you just heard, we talked about the traits and characteristics of community. I know some of you are thinking, that's great. I love that you defined what community was, but how does that help me with my ideas and dreams? How does this push me forward into making those dreams and ideas a reality? Well, community is a powerful tool in making ideas and dreams a reality. And so understanding the traits of community and of good community lays a foundation so that we can understand when we take our dreams and ideas and incorporate community as a tool, how that unlocks making those dreams and ideas a reality. To kick this off, I wanted to give you a couple quotes from influential people throughout history who have said incredible things that apply to community ideas and dreams. The first one comes from Helen Keller. She says, "Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much." Paul Ryan says, "Every successful individual knows that his or her achievement depends on a community of persons working together." And then Donatella Versace says, "Creativity comes from a conflict of ideas." We're going to launch right off of that last quote from Donatella Versace. She says, "Creativity comes from a conflict of ideas." Conflict is a powerful tool of community to strengthen your ideas and dreams. That conflict of people saying, "I think that's a horrible idea," and then they tell you why. Then other people who say, "I don't think you're going to make it happen." It gives you a conflict. It gives you something to push back. Conflict is a powerful tool to refine ideas. It's a powerful tool to push us forward. It is a strange motivator, but it is a good motivator for many people. Conflict is where creativity begins to flourish, as Donatella says. Creativity in conflict. When you toss ideas around, there's a famous quote that says, ideas are meant to be tossed around. I agree with that. And that is a powerful tool to have that conflict, to say, well, that's awesome, but I think this. And then another person jumps in and says, I think that. That conflict can only happen in community. Conflict is really hard. You can have internal conflict, but it's going to lack depth compared to having a larger community to foster that conflict of making the idea a sharper idea. There's a passage of scripture that says iron sharpens iron. And what they're saying is that when you brush against each other, when there's conflict, when you rub that idea in tension, it sharpens the idea, it sharpens the message, it sharpens the dream. So number one, conflict is a powerful tool that only community really unlocks for dreams and ideas. Now let's take a moment and look at Helen Keller's quote. She says, alone we can do so little, together we can do much. How does this play into community, ideas, and dreams? Well, number two, community is a powerful tool for ideas and dreams because it gives support. It gives support in many ways. Number one, it gives support in an emotional context. When we have ideas and dreams, when we're chasing those ideas and dreams, it is easy to get stuck into the habit, the situations, and the experiences of every day. When we have that support of the community, we can process the emotional trauma that ideas and dreams often cause. I can think about even for this podcast, it has been an emotional journey. Sometimes it's been an exciting journey, many times very exciting, but often it can also be very depressing. It can be filled with pain, and that emotional turmoil can only be overcome or best can be overcome when we're in community of other people pushing us towards our dreams and ideas. That emotional support to say, keep on going, keep pushing forward, that support is so powerful in the power of community for unlocking our dreams and ideas. Now let's take it and go on the flip side. Yes, it is powerful. That support of emotional support is powerful, but it also can be physical. People can jump into those dreams and ideas and say, hey, you know what? I can help that. Maybe if your idea is the next great startup, maybe you want to create a new app that rivals Facebook, but you don't know how to code. Well, what do? That sense of community, maybe you find a developer that's your friend who's like, hey, I believe in this idea. I believe in this dream. Let me help support you by building this with you. And having that sense of community brings the support of the physical end of things. So the power of community in chasing ideas and dreams brings support. Number two, support. Now let's look at Paul Ryan's quote, and we're going to talk about the last two reasons why community matters in chasing dreams and ideas. He says every successful individual knows that his or her achievement depends on a community of persons working together. Well, how do people work together? What does that mean? There are two more power of communities that I'm going to share right now. Number three, wisdom and experience. There's a saying that my coach would always say. I love it. I've said it on the podcast numerous times. And he says, only kings and queens know what kings and queens know. Meaning that unless you have experience, unless you've been down the road, you don't know what it's like. So having that wisdom and experience of other people in your community, that helps lead you to that place of achievement and success. It helps build a place where you can truly flourish. And having that wisdom and experience is going to unlock a new sense of a power in your dreams and ideas. What does that mean? Let's go a little bit deeper. I loved my business coach. I've had him for several years. When I moved to the East Coast, I stopped working with him just because of proximity. He was able to give me wisdom from years of studying business, from years of being in business and helping businesses grow both financially and philosophically. And based on his experience, based on his knowledge and what he's learned, that unlocked a new level, a new ground floor in which I could build off of his success, off of his understanding to build my successes. A friend of mine would always say, you need to build on the shoulder of giants. And by being in community, you can start your ground floor on the shoulder of others. This is such a powerful tool for expediting the dreams and ideas and making them rapidly come to fruition. When you have that foundation, when you have that floor that is 10 floors above your floor, now all of a sudden you have the freedom to build on known practices that work, to build on the failures and successes of others, and to grow what you're doing. So number 3, wisdom and experience is a powerful tool that community unlocks for dreams and ideas. And number 4, again, going off of that Paul Ryan quote where he says, every successful individual knows that his or her achievement depends on community of persons working together, is perspective and insight. You may have a great idea, but somebody else may see a weakness in it that you are blinded to. Their perspective and insights will help strengthen your idea. Being in community is the only way to get that perspective and insight. When you have perspective and insight, you can refine, you can grow, you can change, you can evolve your dreams and ideas to make them more powerful. All that to say, perspective and insight is a powerful tool that only community brings for dreams and ideas. So to recap these, number 1, why community matters for dreams and ideas. It brings conflict, and conflict helps sharpen your ideas. Number 2, it helps bring support, both emotional and physical, to make those dreams and ideas a reality. Number 3, it brings wisdom and expertise that only comes from people that have gone before you. And number 4, it brings perspective and insights that you may have missed by the blind spots you have. These are just 4 insights on why community matters for dreams and ideas. I'm sure if we sat here, we could talk for hours about how community matters to dreams and ideas. Let me share a couple personal stories about how community matters in dreams and ideas. When I started out chasing the dream of creating this podcast, was sharing the message that dreams and ideas matter, that you were created for purpose, I was doing it alone. Isolation is the death march of entrepreneurship. That's something I always say. It's something that I believe. And I was isolated. I had a community of podcasters that I was a part of, a group that I had paid to be a part of, but I didn't really connect there. And so I was doing this alone. I didn't know any other podcasters. And so I was making mistakes. I was feeling like I was failing. I didn't know the answers to my questions. And I began to reach out to other communities on social channels. And that led to me connecting with a physical community of podcasters through New Media Summit, which also unlocked meeting other entrepreneurs and growing the podcast further. All that to say, when I was in isolation, the ideas and dreams behind the podcast failed because I didn't have a community to support it. I didn't have a community to give me the answers I didn't know how to solve. And so for me, having a new community around the podcast of other podcasters helped me grow what I'm doing. They help give insight and give suggestions and challenge me in areas that I need to be challenged. And so that's an area in which having a community around me has been very supportive and very good. I can also think about for our family. We've been a part of several church communities. We love what churches do for individuals, what they do for cities and cultures. We think that they're really powerful, and we want to be a part of that. And for several years when we moved back to the East Coast, we were part of an incredible church, a church that was doing amazing things, but we never really found community there. Found a great place to worship. We found a great place to learn. We didn't find community. And so for us, even though there were a billion great things about that church, things we loved, because of proximity of where we lived, because of how big the church was, it was hard to become part of the community at the level for our family. Now, I, as an individual, was flourishing there. I loved being a part of their worship program. I loved being a part of other things I was helping with the tech standpoint. However, it was not a healthy place for our family because our family wasn't connected. We didn't find a place of community and belonging as a family. To bring health, the right thing to do was to go find another church community to be a part of as a family, not as individuals, but as a family. And so we checked out a few churches. We found one that we really love, and we feel a part of that community. We know people there. They know us. They know our struggles. They know our successes, and we celebrate the victories together, and we work through the difficult seasons of life together. That power of community has helped unlock many things. It gave us a place where we belonged. It gives us a place to give back. It gives us a place to feel like we have that ownership we talked about in segment 1. I can also think back to when I lived in Northern California and we had a strong community there. I love where we live in Pennsylvania. It has a lot of amazing things, but one of the things that Chico, California had, and what it's known for, is being a tight-knit community. You see friends and families every day when you go shopping at stores. You bump into people when you're at the farmer's market. You go to events together. There is a tight-knit community there. Part of it had to do with the university there. Part of it had to do with the fact that it was this merger of education and agriculture. Part of it was because they had a killer downtown. But no matter what it was, there was a tight-knit community. I miss that. I miss seeing some of those friends and eating at the restaurants we loved and seeing people as we walk through downtown or going shopping at Target or going out to eat. Community for us there looked vastly different than it does here. We have to be much more intentional about community here in Pennsylvania because we don't have that proximity, because people live further apart, even though there's a larger population. Our community looks different here, and our engagement with each other looks different. And because of that, we lack the community we had in Northern California. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different thing. Something that we have to be intentional about with the community we are engaged with. So there's 3 examples of how communities impacted me and how it looked different in different seasons of our life. In segment 1, we talked about the traits and characteristics of community. In segment 2, we talked about the community, why it matters to dreams and ideas. And in our final segment, we are going to talk about who makes up our community, how to build a community to make your dreams and ideas flourish. We'll be right back. Once again, we want to thank our sponsor for today's episode, OpportunityInChina.com. Here is more about them. Have you been looking for a way to change your career or social prospects? Do you see the world around you changing and haven't quite figured out what path you should take? You are not alone in seeking opportunity. Visit OpportunityInChina.com for access to scholarships to attend university in China. Or if you have a bachelor's degree already, OpportunityInChina.com provides access to jobs in the educational sector all across China. Now, working in China is not only often well paid, but it will place you among 1/5 of the world's population, boosting your social network, bringing you more deeply into the story of globalization, opening up doors you never knew existed. So seize your opportunity now. Visit their website for more information at OpportunityInChina.com. By the way, they have a great podcast. Search for Opportunity in China podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Now let's jump back into today's conversation about the power of community.
Placez votre électrophone à portée de votre main.
We are back to go deeper into the power of community. We've already talked about the traits and characteristics of community. We've talked about community and how it matters to dreams and ideas. Now we are going to talk about who makes up your community as an entrepreneur, as a dreamer, as an idea maker. One of the first places that you can begin to build your community around your dreams and ideas is to begin with your friends and family. They are the closest to you. They're going to know you the best. Incorporating friends and family into your dreams and ideas and using that foundation of community, super powerful both in good and bad ways. First off, your friends and family will want to support you. They're going to want to encourage you. And sometimes they're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you good things about the idea and dream when the idea and dream isn't mature enough to actually make into reality. So you need to weigh out your feedback on that end. But on the flip side, people are going to also give you bad feedback. Your family and friends specifically, they're going to discourage you chasing those dreams and ideas. And they're going to do it for multiple reasons. Number one, they're going to try to protect you from chasing those dreams and ideas. And number two, sometimes you pushing into your own dreams and ideas is going to highlight the discontent in their own life where they're not stepping into the things that they know they're created to do. And so they want to celebrate the misery together instead of encouraging you to step out. So you have to weigh that. In the mix of that, you are going to find a middle ground of champions, people who cheer you on, who are going to give you good feedback, and you want to hone that. You want to have those conversations with those people and get clear and very focused perspective. So family and friends, that's the starting place. This is where your idea will begin to form that seed, that initial kernel. It starts with you, and it moves out to them. The next group we're going to talk about is the social group. These are people in your social network. You may want to incorporate them in, you may not. But let's move it one step further. I'm not just talking about friends and family and the random person that you don't know in your Facebook sphere of influence or your LinkedIn community. I'm talking about finding channels on those social channels, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, or even forums and other outlets where you can join a group of like-minded people who share the same ideas. So if you have always dreamed of starting a craft brewery, well, what do you need to do? You should join a Facebook group of home brewers that are making beer and wine and whatever they're brewing and making. And so join the group of people that are in the same place as you are, that can encourage you. Maybe they're a couple steps forward. They've already gone on this journey and they know how to do it. And some of them are going to be right where you are, where they're exploring the idea, exploring the dreams. Get around those people in social groups. Ask the question as you engage with your ideas and dreams. Have you ever encountered this issue? How did you overcome it? What are things I need to know about dreams and ideas that I'm specifically processing that I may be blind to? Ask these questions and get really, really good feedback from that community. Engage with the people. Hear what they're talking about. Hear about their struggles. Hear about their successes. Don't, with this group, put expectations on yourself based on perceptions you see from other people in this community. Often, especially like for me, I can think of the podcasting community, jumped in and you hear about these people who are like, I started my podcast last week. I have 10 million downloads. And you're going, how'd you do that? I have 100. And the truth of the matter is that they may have had a large community supporting them, people that already joined their newsletter or are already part of their Facebook friends. Whatever that looks like, they may already have that and you don't. So again, you have to weigh the good and the bad. The next step is to find formal peer groups. These are a group of people who may be in the industry you want to get into, or maybe it's just if you want to be an entrepreneur, they're in a mastermind, and join that mastermind to begin to process the idea and dream together. The difference between this and the social groups, like social media groups, is that this group is intentional about growth, change, and moving forward, whereas the social groups are more about just processing the idea. So find those peer groups. Maybe it's a mastermind of startup founders. Maybe it's a group of people who are meeting every month to talk about, using that example before, brewing. Maybe you find a local meetup. Find that peer group that you can get into actual proximity and physical touch where you're actually talking to them face to face versus through social channels. The next step for you, step number 4, is to begin to engage with experts. If you want to start a tech startup, one of the things you can do is reach out to people that have started tech startups. Invite them to lunch. Jump on a phone call with them. Use Zoom and do a virtual meeting that way. But begin to take and learn from them. Tim Ferriss and others who have written amazing books, this is one of the things that they are known for, is building a network where they can go get questions answered that they don't know the answer. And then they ultimately write a book about it. And this is how they learn and experiment and try. They find these experts, they get into their sphere, and they learn the knowledge and wisdom that they have to give. So that's another step you can take. Step number 4 is find the expert. Step number 5, hire a coach, a mentor, or a consultant. You need someone that is your advocate. And I know that it's risky to try to find and hire a coach, and you want to find one that's legit. But the truth of it is that having that dedicated person that is paid to actually do the advocacy of being on your side, to coaching you, teaching you, mentoring you, is a powerful tool. Good coaches are not always going to come from your specific field. Sometimes you need a coach that is all about finances because you need to understand the finances of business. Or maybe your dream and idea is about innovating in the car space and you need to find a coach that has worked in engineering and not in building cars, but actually engineering them. So find the coaches and the mentors and the consultants that can help you build what you're trying to learn. Number 6, I am a big fan of education. And for many people, they say, well, I need to go to a 4-year institution, I need to go to a trade school, and I need to spend a lot of money. Those are great outlets. And for many people, that is the right next step. I don't want to discourage that by any measure. I want you to think about learning as multifaceted. One, you can learn by reading through books. You can learn by taking a evening workshop. You can learn by being a part of a trade school or a community college. You can learn at a 4-year institution. You can learn through exchange schools and extension schools. There are tons of ways to learn. You can also learn through apprenticeships and through getting hired on the job. If you, again, using the brewery analogy, go work for a brewery if you want to be a brewer. And so there are multiple ways to learn, and you need perspective. So begin to think about, where could I learn this best? Right now, one of the things I want to do is I want to go take some journalism classes to strengthen what I do. Where's the best outlet to do that? Well, at either continuing education through an institution like Penn State or Harvard or University of Oregon, University of Phoenix, University of Arizona. If I said that, Arizona State, that's the other one I was thinking. Go and learn from them is one of the next steps for me. That would be really good. Now, that may mean I go take a course and get a degree, or courses and get a degree. It may also mean that I just take courses through these continuing and distant education tools to extend my knowledge and my understanding. So, number 6, find places that you can learn. And as I said before, there are tons of places you can do this. You can do it through distance education. You can do it through community colleges. You can do it through trade schools. You can do it through apprenticeships. You can do it as on-job training, but constantly be a person who learns, a person who loves to learn, who loves to consume information. I was recently on a podcast and we were talking about what sets up achievers versus non-achievers, people who seem to change the world with their ideas and dreams. And one of the things that I mentioned in the interview was that a common thread between some of the most innovative people, some of the most influential people, some of the people creating spaces that never existed, was that they were constant learners, and not even learners just in their space, but they were constantly learning. They were constantly getting education through different channels, not just traditional colleges, but also through experiential learning. And so for you, I really encourage you, learn. It is a powerful tool. In that, how does that help you with community? You will find community in those places of learning. If you're an apprentice, you will find community in the place that you're working. If you are going to a trade school, you're going to find community in that trade school. You're going to find community in a distant education program that's really good, and you're going to be able to connect with other students. You're going to be able to connect with professors and teachers. So begin to not only learn at these institutions, but begin to flourish in the community. Begin to share and sharpen those ideas in those communities that you're engaging with. Number 7, your team. As you grow your idea and dream, being a solopreneur is hard. I've been there. I'm there right now. I've had big teams. I actually think that having a big team often is much easier than being a solopreneur, based on my experience. There are a couple things about your team that you need to know. One, you need to hire right. And if you're not hiring right, you need to get rid of the wrong people. Because your culture, your team will be that community. If you're building a business, if you're building an idea, if you're creating something awesome, if you don't have the right team around you that is supporting that dream, that's thinking about the best things for that idea and dream, they will actually hold you back from the possibilities. So you've got to hire right. You've got to invite the right people into your circle that is working for you. And then beyond that, you've got to put your own ego to the side. You can't say, hey, this is my idea and dream, do it my way. or get out, what you need to really do is step back and say, how can I invite you to be a part of the conversation? How can you have ownership in this idea and dream as a part of our team, as a part of our community, as an employee or even a volunteer team? So that's number 7. Get the right team around you. Number 8, find those early adopters, find those early adopters and advocates. Often they're called super fans or super consumers. These are people who are really in touch with your message, with your product or your service. These are people that advocate for you when you are doing what you're doing. They are the ones going out and helping you get to the everyday consumer instead of just the super consumer. These are the people who are going to help share your idea and message with the world. So connect with them, incorporate them into your community, incorporate them into your team, and have them be a part of what you're building. Give them ownership. Give them a place at the table to have a voice for shaping the ideas and dreams that you are building. That's number 8. Number 9, incorporate your customers into the community that you are building. Some of the best companies have the best customers, and the reason that they have best customers is that the culture of the company, the culture of the idea and dream invites people to be a part of that. And so these customers, these consumers, they are a part of your journey and really have ownership. You can look at brands that people are in love with: Disney, Apple, Coca-Cola, just to name a few. And people live and die by these companies. They buy all their products. They buy all the merchandise that has all the markings, Coke shirts or Apple Watches. They're buying the latest, greatest thing. And so, or Disney, if they're doing that, they're watching every movie the day it comes out. They're the super fans and customers. But the reason that these people flourish is because their companies that are selling them the products, services, or messages are really engaging them to be a part of that story. So your customers, either the ones that are super adopters and advocates or the ones that are just kind of passing ones, you need to turn them into people that are avid fans of what you're sharing, the message, the product, or the service. So to recap, who makes up your community? Family and friends, your social community, your peer groups and masterminds, your experts, your coaches, your places of learning, your team, your early adopters and advocates, and your customers. Those are 9 places that you can really engage with a community that helps support making your dreams and ideas a reality. In a moment, we'll be back to wrap up today's episode.
Let's start.
We hope you are loving today's episode, and if you are, we have over 225 other episodes with incredible guests, topics, and tips to help you on the journey of turning your dreams and ideas into reality. It's easy to find those episodes on your favorite places to listen to podcasts. Simply search for Jumble Think Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are a fan of Apple Podcasts or iTunes, simply go to jumblethink.com/iTunes. That's jumblethink.com/iTunes. And for Spotify, jumblethink.com/Spotify, jumblethink.com/Spotify. Take you right to the app, right to where you can subscribe to the show. While you're there, make sure to leave us a rating and review. Let others know what you thought of the show today, too. Now, let's jump into the final segment as we conclude today's episode on the power of community. We are back to wrap up today's episode all about the power of community. All right, we've talked about the traits and characteristics of community. We've talked about why community matters to dreamers and idea makers. We've talked about who makes up our communities. Now, as we wrap up, what do we do next? Where do we go from here? Well, my first question for you is, are you in community? I want you to really think about that. Are you in a community that supports your dreams and ideas? If you aren't, what is a good first step you can take? Could you reach out to your friends and families and just start the conversation? Maybe join one of those social groups on Facebook or a forum and begin to have these conversations around your ideas and dreams. If you are in community, are you in a healthy community? Is your community building each other up? Is it excited and energized for the future that you're creating? Is your community one that supports you And also, are you supporting your community? You need to think about where you are in this journey with your ideas and dreams. If you haven't started, maybe make the first step and just engage the people around you. Or if you've been doing this for a long time, where are the holes in your community? Are you incorporating your family and friends into what you're building? Maybe you've been doing this for a while and you don't share what you do with those people around you, and maybe what you're doing or what they're doing could support each other. There could be a synergy there. And just because you've been doing it for a long time, you forget those people. Or maybe you've engaged that crowd and you're still new at this. Maybe you need to find that peer group or social group, social media group that can help answer those questions and holes that you haven't figured out. Or maybe you've been doing this for a while and you've forgotten about those communities and you can give back. And that's one of the things we haven't talked too much about, is that when you are in good community, you are giving just as much as you're getting. And sometimes you give a lot, sometimes you gain a lot, but there are seasons of this. And so if you're further down the road and you have a successful business and your ideas and dreams are becoming a reality and they're being everything that you want them to be, maybe you need to loop back to that group, your social media channels, your peer groups, your masterminds, and say, hey, how can I help and support you? Maybe you're facing some challenges and you need to take the next step. And the next step for you is to reach out to those experts, those coaches, or go back for some more learning wherever you need to engage to learn what you need to go into this next season. Then take those steps and be proactive to get into those communities. Begin to learn, begin to experience, begin to sharpen those ideas and dreams. If you've got a team and you're doing really, really well, maybe it's time for you to think about, do I have the right team? Am I overworking my team? Are we operating as a team, as a community, and more than just employees? Are we engaging people to have ownership and encourage our dreams and ideas, but us to encourage them? Have you engaged those early adopters? Have you engaged those advocates? Have you created super fans and super consumers? Have you reached your customers, and how are you hearing them in this journey? You need a healthy format of community, and no matter where you are in this journey of chasing dreams and ideas, you will have to assess your current place. And so, are you in community? Is your community healthy? What kind of things are missing in the community that you're a part of? What are the elements that you haven't really engaged with? Then what do you do? After you've done that, when you've taken the assessment, when you've been intentional to figure out where are these gaps, where are these holes, what do you do next to go to the next level? Well, you need to start thinking about how you're actually connecting, how you're actually engaging. Often when we're in community, we forget that it is a purposeful endeavor, a purposeful step into relationship. And in that, we take it for granted and we're not engaged. So how do you connect with that community? You begin to have conversations, real conversations, intimate conversations, where it's not just the surface, what do you do? But you go deeper. You ask the hard questions, the questions that keep you up at night. You begin to have conversations that challenge each other, that foster creativity, that encourage you to think differently. I want to remind you of what Helen Keller said. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do much. If you feel like you're not making headroom, if you feel like you're not getting forward progress, if you feel like you're stuck, you probably need some other people around you. You need to find that sense of community, that sense of relationship, and grow it. Here are 5 questions in this journey of community that I want you to ask yourself today to go to the next level, to go deeper into community. 1, ask your community, what do I need to do next? Now, this is a weird question to start out with, but often we are stuck and we don't know where to go. So simply ask our community, whether they're our coaches, our experts, our social community in groups, whether they're peer groups, whether they're part of our team, what do I need to do next? Think about what it is that is the next step in the idea and dream to take it to the next place. That's the first question that you need to be asking. The second question is, what is missing? What is missing from my idea and dream? What is missing from our community? What is missing from the offerings that we're giving you? What is missing from our message? How are we not serving you well? Get your community involved to answer that question. You may see some of the pieces, but I can guarantee they see a whole bunch of pieces you don't. Number 3, what are we not seeing? What are the possibilities around this dream and idea that we have not yet explored? Sometimes it is something missing, like last questions, but sometimes it's not about missing, it's about pushing into a new future. So what is it that you're not seeing about your idea and dream that could take you into the next season, into the next place? What is it that you're not seeing? Number 4, how can we become part of your story? So often we ask, what can you do for me? But this question's all about, what can I do for you? How can I be a better friend to you? How can I support your dreams and ideas? How can I make your life better? Be a part of their story. Make your product and message a part of their story. Become part of their life. And then ultimately that leads to the last question, which is, how can you become part of our story? Together, we are much more powerful. So these questions lead us on that journey of fostering a community that goes deeper. And again, those questions are, what do I need to do next? What is missing? What are we not seeing? How can I become part of your story? And how can you become part of our story? In today's episode, my goal was to simply help you think about community. We often think about ourselves more than we think of others, and community is about a synergy between us and others. It is about us being able to support our dreams and ideas. It's about us being able to support the dreams and ideas of others. I hope today's episodes really encouraged you on that journey to ask hard questions about the community that you're building, the communities that you're a part of, and how those support your dreams and ideas. One of my favorite things to say is that isolation is the death march of entrepreneurship. But truly, it goes beyond that. Isolation is the death march of our ideas and our dreams. And ultimately, I think that it is the downfall of our own identities. We need each other. We need the people around us to support each other. We need to support others too. And so in this journey, if you are feeling isolated, if you are feeling alone, you need to make a change. The only way you will make a change is if you begin to be purposeful about the choices you make. So if you're feeling alone in this journey, whether it's around an idea or dream, or if you're feeling isolated just in general, begin to think about the people you can reach out to. You may have fear about reaching out to that community, to becoming part of that community, to taking the risk to put yourself out there. You may think, what if they reject me? What if my idea and dream is silly and no one accepts it? The reality is that if you find authentic community and your dream and idea may need that support to become what it needs to be. And maybe your idea and dream isn't that great to begin with, but that community will help support you. When it's a healthy community, they will love you well. They will challenge you. They will push you into new possibilities that you didn't see. They will encourage you to step into the unknown. And ultimately, this will lead you into the fulfillment of your dreams and ideas. Failure is inevitable in this journey of chasing dreams and ideas. When we do it together, the failure is easier. The getting up and processing and moving forward becomes quicker. And reaching the end goal of our dreams and ideas becomes more of a reality. So I want to encourage you. Think about your community. Think about the things missing. Think about the things that you've always wanted to do. And then think about the story you could create by encouraging and incorporating others into the dreams and ideas you are building. I'm going to give you an offer if you're listening right now. If you don't know where to start in this journey of chasing dreams and ideas, drop me an email, hello@jumblethink.com. I would love to hear your struggles. Why do you feel like you're not finding that community? And I'd love to help you get to the place where you're not isolated, where you're not alone, but that those dreams and ideas have a home, a place to be nurtured and grown into the possibilities that they could become. I'd also love to hear how community has impacted your journey of chasing dreams and ideas. So drop me a note, hello@jumblethink.com. Let us know your stories of how community has impacted your dreams and ideas. So if you need to find community, or if you have a great story, drop me an email, hello@jumblethink.com. We'd love to hear from you. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. It's been a lot of fun to talk about community. I think it's an important thing, and the power of community is an amazing tool to make your dreams and ideas a reality. Make sure to go check out the past episodes where we've talked about the power of adventure, the power of identity, the power of wonder, and the power of boredom. These are a lot of fun, and I think you'll enjoy those too. Now it's your turn to get out there and make your dreams and ideas a reality. If you don't have community, go find one. If you need to make a step to making those dreams and ideas a reality, take the step. It is our belief that you were created for something awesome, that you have a purpose in this world to do amazing things, whether they're big or small, whether they're to be a great parent to your children or to change cultures and civilizations around the world. You are called to something great. So get out there, chase those dreams and ideas, and change the world around you.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.